said this and I said again, I know that I'm speaking to the Republicans in Athens, Clark County, but I'll speak to anybody. And I'm still waiting on the Democrats to invite me to come speak to them, but I have not received that. And because what I'm trying to relay here are facts. Are facts. It's not opinion, it's truly facts. You know, when we do that pledge and we end with liberty and justice for all, let me tell you what's not happening in Athens, Clark County, and Dakota County. Justice for all. It's not happening. And I appreciate, so I see many people in this room that have shown up for these hearings that are able to do it, because I'm at the point now is what do I say to the people in this room? What can I do for you? And what I'm going to do tonight is educate you. Because what I really need you to do is to go out into the public and educate them as to what is happening. And then now, you know, we have our website as the Concerned Citizens website that I letter to the editor of the Coney Enterprise we put on there, and we are updating it. These hearings that Gordon just spoke about, I've ordered the transcripts on them, so you can read them. You can read the cross-examination and the testimony of this district attorney. There's no longer any, when I stood up before you, I have not had the opportunity to be able to cross-examine her, and now I have now done it 3 times. And each time I see something, and I'm going to be very aggressive about what I'm about to say. I see deception and lies. Deception and lies. Now you got to remember, as a member of the bar, for me to accuse another member of the bar of deception and lies, it's a strong, strong allegation, but it is there. And it is strong because it is, as I wrote in the letter to the editor, why would you do this? Why would you write a letter to the editor attacking me personally? And in the meantime, when you write that letter to the editor of the Coney Enterprise, you put in confidential communication between a victim of a crime and your office. Why? Why? And I'll tell you the answer that I've come to getting to know her a little bit more through cross-examination. Self-preservation. It is self-preservation. It is not about justice. It is not about victims. It's about the ability to tell people lies to get reelected. And Joan, I know that I've sent you this, and I'm going to show you something of how far her lies will go. Joan, can you pull that up for me? I've got a PowerPoint that I want to show you about this. So one of the things that caught me about Deborah Gonzalez was a flagpole interview that she did. And in this flagpole interview, she did something that was really troubling. She made herself out to be the victim of a hate crime. A victim of a hate crime. Very serious. So when I read that, I said, man, if an elected official is someone that's been subject to this, surely, this was reported to the police, right? And it was. But what she told the public is not really what happened. So Johnny, if you'll go to the next one for me. So here it is. District Attorney Gonzalez answers her critics. Let's go to the next one, John. This is what she said. When you were running for office, did you anticipate that things would be this difficult? Keep in mind that there was a backlash against me even before I won the election. After I won, I thought things would calm down a little and we would get to work. That never really happened. It started immediately with Oconee wanting to secede from the circuit. To secede from the circuit, okay? Oconee doesn't have the ability to do that, right? Yeah, they just can't leave. This is in 1861 where someone can just secede from the Union. That's not how this works. But she's using terms. Secede. What does that invoke in you, right? So then you go on. So it has always been challenging, but it's been surprising to me how much hostility there's been. I had my car keyed. I had my backyard broken into and a noose put there. Wow. Wow. That's a big, big allegation, right? So what happened with that? So let's go to this. Did we go too far on that, John, or was that the next one? Here. I found the police report. I did an open records request. And I'll talk to you about open records in a second. And the police report gave this to me. Now I want you to note something. On 1/31/2022, 1/31, I met with a reporting party victim who reported to me that the gate to the fence in her backyard had been damaged the week before Christmas, The gate leads to a wooded area behind her residence. I did find where the gate had been damaged. Screws are out of the wood. The boards have been pulled apart. I took photographs of this damage, and those photos will be attached to the T-drive for inclusion with the case file. The victim, which is Deborah Gonzalez, told me that at the time that the damage was noted, a small electrical cord was found on the table near the back door to her residence, asked if there was any evidence of forced entry, attempted forced entry in the residence, and learned there was none. The electrical cord was collected as evidence. Okay? See there? Do you see a mention of a noose? Do you see a mention of a hate crime? Do you remember anything about that? So go to the next one. I checked, this is what the officer did. I checked the wooded area behind the residence for any suspicious activity and additional evidence, and none was located. I also looked around the fence and did not locate any evidence. At this time, there was no known suspects in this case, and I was also unable to determine why this fence was damaged and or specific way in which this fence was damaged. Now, this is facts, folks. So the officer did his job, because clearly you've got the district attorney saying that someone broke in there. So let's take a look. John, go to the next. Here's the fence. This is the damaged fence, right? John, the next. This is the noose. This is an evidence. This is her noose. This is what she claims was the hate crime in this. These are facts. She is telling citizens of Athens, Clark County, and Oconee County that that happened in her backyard. So, go to John to the next. Here's the important thing. The incident happened before Christmas of 21, and she didn't report it until January 31st of 2022. Why? Why did she do that? Why did she have to go to these lengths to be able to do this? If someone breaks in your backyard, breaks a fence, and places a noose in there as part of a hate crime, do you wait and say, well, it's the holidays. Let's get past the first of the year. Let's get in there and let's do that. That's the deception. That is the lies. She needs the public to think that's what's happening. The keyed car, no police report. None. Now, public officials don't get attacked in this country. Public officials are not subject to hate crimes. We take that very seriously. I dislike the way she serves as district attorney, but no public official should be subject to that. And the real thing about this is she's saying these things, and they're not true, but it's to relay an image. It's to relay that she is a victim, when she totally disregards other victims. It's job number one that she's got. Thank you, Joan, for that. So now let me update you of some things. So she's had a series of very bad losses to Gerard Miller and to victims in cases since I've last seen him. So let me tell you about something that was said that there was no reason for a lot of y'all in the press wasn't there, but it's an important case for what we're trying to get to. It's the open records case. And there has been some media about this, but I just want to tell you where we are with this. So when I started this, I sent an open records request to Ms. Gonzalez's office to ask some basic information. She sent back my first open records request. She sent back a response to me that said there was no one else in her office to do it, surprise, surprise, that only she could do it, and that she quoted me a bill of $8,000 based on the time that she would have to spend to be able to respond to one of my open records. The open record that I sent requested a series of information. And so I said, well, okay, so you're playing games with open records at this point. So let's see if I can simplify this for you. And then I started the campaign. On behalf of Mr. Miller, my client, I sent open records because we weren't getting the information in the mandamus action, which is now currently, she originally appealed that mandamus action, she lost. And the way she lost is she filed a motion to dismiss to have it thrown out of court, and then she admitted that she was not doing her job. Why? Why did she do that? Because she didn't want me to be able to take her deposition. She didn't. So she admitted it and then took it up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court got their briefing and said, no, this doesn't belong in our court. You should have filed in the Court of Appeals. It then got shot down to the Court of Appeals. We briefed it, and now they've asked for oral arguments in the Court of Appeals of whether or not the judge that was sitting there rightfully denied the motion to dismiss. Those oral arguments will be heard in front of the Court of Appeals sometime after the first of the year. I would say to y'all that these are delay tactics, because everything we do, she tries to find a way of not to sit and answer questions. So what is open records, right? What is it? It's for open government, transparency, and accountability. She holds herself out a lot to want that, right? That's what she wants. So after I realized she was playing games, I started sending open records requests to her on behalf of Mr. Miller. Twice a day, one open request. And we did it for a series of over 40 days and asked her to respond. She would respond to some, not respond to some, and we were giving her the benefit of the doubt and trying to get this information. Ultimately, she just failed to comply to our open records request, would not give it to us. So we filed a lawsuit for the open records request, but in that open records request, something came out. Her chief of staff that was working for her quit and reached out to us both individually and through her attorney. And while I was sending these open records requests, and while she was actually receiving open records requests for the media, she contacts her chief of staff who had been sending her a series of text messages. And she tells her chief of staff, hey, I'm getting a lot of open requests here. And I would hate to see that wind up in an open records request or a newspaper. You should probably delete what you're sending me. Her chief of staff told me she did this. Well, that's a crime, folks. That's a felony. So we filed the lawsuit and asked the court to issue a citation, which is what you have to do when trying to arrest a public official who commits a felony, and let them hear the evidence themselves to determine whether or not she committed a crime. So then what did they do? They used the same firm that had the writ of mandamus action, and they brought them in and they moved to dismiss my open records request. Well, that was denied. And now it's moved up, but they have asked for an appeal to the Court of Appeals, and it's going to the Court of Appeals again. But something happened in that hearing. Something was said in that hearing by her attorney that both sticks with me because it was said in open court, and it states how she feels about things. He stood up in front of Judge Emerson and said, we would not have brought this motion to dismiss, and we would have complied with these open records requests, but for that it was Mr. Epps and Mr. Miller. We view this as a war of attrition with them. A war of attrition. I wrote that down. And so and it's in a transcript, and we're getting the transcript, and we're going to put that out there. I want you to think about what she's saying to the public, right? Instead of being open and accountable and transparent, Gerard Miller, who voted for her, who is a citizen that has every right to get that information as to anybody else in this room, the elected official told her attorney to say in open court, or he made it on his own, he did it on his own, but he still is a representative of her, said that this citizen, that they're starting a war of attrition with this. I appreciate you honoring the veterans to start out there. They know what war is. But we are in a public statement war with her. We are in a fight for victims against her, and we are in a fight for justice against her, and these are the statements that she's making against folks. So, I'm not going to give her the dignity. I'm not going to break down myself to say I'm at war with her. I'm not. What I'm trying to do is get her to do her job. I'm just trying to get her to recognize that you are an advocate for victims of crime. You are the thing where these guys, where they stop and they make arrests, and then when it gets to you, you have to make prosecutorial decisions, and she's not doing it. Which leads me to this. These Marsy law violations that we've recently had. I'm going to tell you all that we are setting precedent for Marsy's law, which I'm very proud of. Very, very proud of. Now, we're as I've worked my way through the very first Marsy law cases that have ever appeared before Georgia, I now know that we're going to have to ask for Houston and Marcus and Bill to make some changes to Marsy law, because the same thing I get from everybody is say, Kevin, you're getting these victories in Marsy's law, but what is the repercussion? Where's the teeth to this thing? Yeah. Now, in some of them, we've had an outcome. We had, when I stood up here and talked about, the victim whose father raped her, that case, and I'm happy to report, that I got an email from the prosecutor, the good prosecutor that knows what he's doing, Randy McGinley, who's been appointed under that case, has re-indicted it. It's back before the court, and it's on the January calendar, and that's going to be prosecuted, and they're number one. And we have a competent DA from another circuit handling it. That is a good product of Marsy's Law. That I'm proud of. But these latest ones that we've been dealing with are a little bit different, and I'll tell you why. So the one in Oconee County that we're still waiting on the ruling from the judge on, that played out, is an interesting situation because of what she did. And again, this is about an education moment. So let me try to educate you about what's going on in Oconee County. I know this is Athens, Clark County Republicans, but we're one circuit, right? You know, Kalki's running for one circuit. And unlike Ms. Gonzalez, who's talking about Oconee County seceding from us, we are one circuit. If you gotta like us both, Ms. Gonzalez, if you're gonna run for DA, you gotta represent everybody, okay? She says that she feels that she's unsafe when she goes across the river in Oconee County for some reason. And I'll tell you a side bit about it. Y'all may remember that in Fully Loaded, in the pizza restaurant out in Oconee County, Andrew would know this because Andrew has been working with jurors and getting them in there, is that she actually had a jury selection, and she had a confrontation with an individual out in Oconee County at a meeting out there. And she didn't remember him. She made many allegations against him, calling him a racist, among other things, but he was actually on one of her jury pools. And she asked, as she was asking, does anyone know me? He raised his hand. She goes, well, how do you know me? He says, well, you actually called me a racist at one point in time. And she then, the light bulb went off, and she asked the judge to dismiss him. And of course, didn't ask the question, could you be fair to her and could you listen to the case? The judge did it, and he said, sure, I can get past what she said to me. I'm here to look at a case, look at the facts, look at the law, and I can do it. And the judge denied her request to remove him because here's a citizen that's trying to do his job, trying to be there for her. But that's the stuff that you see in the courtrooms. Andrew sees it, we see it, we hear about it, and that's going on. But in this situation out in Oconee County, it got so bad that they were arresting people on DUIs and other citations that would not normally reach to the level of felony, and they were just building up. Okay? Now, you know, I saw Bill Bushnell somewhere in here. Yeah. So I know criminal defense attorneys don't like me right now. And I'm just going to tell you why. It's Christmas for them. It truly is Christmas, and I hate to put it like that. It's been Christmas for 3 years. They get whatever they want, whenever they want, and all they got to do is sit back and wait to see if she does her job. Well, let me explain what's happening in Oconee County. When you have someone that's arrested for a DUI, you got a prosecutor that has 2 years to prosecute it, right? They need to do what they call an accusation. And the way Oconee County works is all of these traffic offenses and DUIs, if they don't fall to a felony, go inside probate court. And we have a magnificent probate court judge out there and a magnificent prosecutor that the probate court judge hires. And he's tough on them. And they don't just let people get away. But all the defense attorneys say, well, why would I possibly try to go up to someone that actually is doing their job? Let's bound it up to Superior Court, where Deborah Gonzalez is, where all you got to do is wait her out and the cases will be dismissed. Or if she happens to pay attention to the case, you'll get it pled down to something, and they just walk out on probation and that's what happened. The cases became dormant. They were losing the work that was being done by our law enforcement. So the Superior Court judges said, well, we're going to create a docket. We're going to create a docket that requires you, Ms. Gonzalez, to show up at court and the defense attorneys before the judges, and we ask you a question. Do you want to plead to this, or do you want Ms. Gonzalez to accuse it, right? And if the defense attorney says, we want her to accuse it, the judge sets another date by which Ms. Gonzalez is supposed to do that, right? She's not doing it. She's not doing it. And in the Marsy's Law case that I had out in Oconee County, let me tell you what happened, okay? We had an individual that was visiting a relative. She was out there at the Oconee County Connector right up the street from the QT where you cross over to go to 316 like you're going up the road, right? A drunk driver rammed her from behind pushed her into 316 by 40 feet. If it had been 10 seconds earlier, a tractor trailer would have run her over and she'd be dead. He then comes up beside her, and she thought that maybe he was trying to help her and assist her and stop traffic, but what he did was he sped off. It was a hit and run, DUI, and here's this person in the middle of the road with, fortunately, traffic stopping, and all of this happens. Ms. Gonzalez, this case comes before them. The defense attorney asked for an accusation, and she just didn't do it. So the week before the second hearing, where she's supposed to show up with an accusation, the week before, her victim advocate calls up and says, "Don't worry, victim. Next Monday, we're going to fight for justice for you. This person is either going to plead to DUI and all the reckless driving and all the hit and run, or we're going to accuse it and take it to trial." Well, what happened on that Monday? Judge Norris calls the case. She stands up. She's in the courtroom now. She's in the courtroom. And we learned in her testimony that on her computer is an accusation that she walked downstairs to her office, print, and file. And Judge Norris says to the defense attorney, "Do you still seek an accusation?" "Yes." "All right, Madam Clerk, hand me the accusation." "There isn't one." There's one. And Judge Norris says, "Well, you didn't do what I told you to do." So Judge Norris says, "I've got to dismiss it for what they call want of prosecution. You didn't do your job." At this point, Ms. Gonzalez could have just sat back and done nothing. What did she do? "Hey, Judge, hold on. Let me dismiss it." She actually dismissed it. What she had in her file, by the way, y'all, on this hearing, is that just a few months before, the guy that hit this young lady and pushed her in 316 got another DUI in Athens, Clark County, under almost the same circumstances. So he had 2 pending DUIs, and she was prepared to dismiss it. Guess what happens after that? No one calls the victim. No one talks to her. No one tells her what happened. She was a real estate agent. She lost her car. Insurance didn't cover it all, because guess what? The guys that typically hit and run typically don't have enough insurance to cover you for after they hit you. So Ms. Gonzalez takes the stand. She takes the stand in my cross-examination, and she had the audacity to sit up there and tell everybody we were ready, willing, and capable to prosecute this case. Ready, willing, and capable to prosecute this case. Gordon knows this, and anybody that was present. When I talked about that case, I must have said 4 to 6 times that the accident occurred at 316. And I said, "All right, Ms. Gonzalez, you said you were ready, willing, and capable of prosecuting that case. Where did the accident occur?" Now, take in mind, she'd been sitting in the courtroom while I'd been saying 316 the whole time, right? Her answer? Oconee County. I said, "Well, we're getting close, aren't we?" "Where in Oconee County?" "I don't know." "How did they catch him?" "I don't know." They caught him because the guy that hit her, his wife, came back to the scene and started circling around trying to find him because he was fleeing and seeing what was going on to see if anybody was dead. The sheriff's department looks over and says, "What's this car going on?" And they stop it. And sure enough, he calls his wife while she is circling looking for him, and they go and find him and locate him. Facts that would be really, really important to know if you were ready, willing, and capable to prosecuting the case, right? She says in a response that when court was dismissed, she used a very key word, when court was dismissed, that she contacted PAC, which is the prosecutorial counsel, which she's kind of like a phone a friend for. What am I supposed to do? She made it out to the court that they immediately contacted PAC to figure out what was supposed to do about the judge requiring the dismissal. That didn't happen because you know why? I called PAC. I spoke to their attorney. I got the emails. I know what happened. The Marsy's law violation was filed, and Ms. Gonzalez was panicked. She emailed PAC's attorney and said, "What do I do in this situation?" And you know what they said? "Indict it, accuse it, do your job." Only after the Marsy's law, she then took a misdemeanor and convened the grand jury in Oconee County and presented a misdemeanor that she could have simply just printed, signed her name, and put an accusation in front of the court, and that was good enough. That's all she did. And do you know, and Gordon and everybody heard this, do you know on the stand when I asked her that, did you know that you could have stopped this dismissal by simply just printing off? Well, I didn't have a printer. And I said, you got an office downstairs, don't you? With a printer, Miss Gonzalez? Yeah. And I said, and you could have printed it, filed it, signed it, and filed it, and stopped this. Well, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could do that. This is the sitting district attorney who did not know this simple procedure. I bet after this speech, everything I just educated y'all about, that if you stepped up as a prosecutor in front of a judge and judge said, you know what, you didn't give me that piece of paper, so therefore I'm going to dismiss it. Logically, you would sit there and go, you know what, Judge, I think I could get you that piece of paper. Just give me a second. Because I asked her, I said, did you ever ask Judge Norris for a break? No. Has he ever denied you a break to go work on your case? No, he's never done that. Where's justice for the victim in that? Where's your thought pattern on someone that is in both Athens, Clark County, which you care a lot about, and the other county that's apparently seceding, has 2 DUIs and you do nothing? You do nothing? I mean, what's it going to take for her, right? To crash through the back of her fence and kill someone close to her? Because to date, I have put Marsy's Law in rape cases, death cases, DUI cases, and I have found a single crime that gets her going. Not one. And she is managing from a victim standpoint to alienate members of this community. Felons who are taking guns and shooting 3 dogs who she puts on probation, killing dogs in the streets. And she has the audacity to stand on her social media with a shirt that says, together we can stop gun violence. I'd change her shirt. I could continue gun violence. Vote Deborah Gonzalez. And that leads us to the Marsy's Law, and I've got to turn this over to Kalki because he's got a lot more important things to say, and to tell you about his platform, what he's going to do. But it is important because the news media has picked up on this. Is the Marsy's Law violation last week, and it's sad. It is just plain out sad. And I'll sit here and tell you, I did not expect a 6-hour hearing. I just didn't. I had no clue what was about to be put in front of us. But I just want to give you, and Gordon, I promise I'll end up with this and turn it over. I just want to tell you what happened, okay? A woman married to a man for 37 years who, for over 600 days, waited for justice for the death of her husband, was denied that. And what's extremely sad about this is that for 600 days, Deborah Gonzalez's office treated this woman as the wife of the man that's dead. Yet at that hearing last week, she had the audacity to challenge that this woman was not the wife of this man. Was not. Why? These two did not stand before a judge or a preacher and get married in the sense that a lot of people do. But they were common law married. Common law was abolished in 1997. But anybody that was common law married before 1997, and I know there's a lot of people in this room that has a little gray hair that knows about common law marriage. There's a lot of reasons why you're common law married. But she challenged it, even though her records show that they treated her as a spouse. The victim advocate that was no longer with her office, that managed the case for almost 2 years, treated her as a husband and wife throughout. She challenged it. I want to tell you something. She holds herself out to be the progressive. She holds herself out to have this progressive agenda. Well, anybody that holds themselves out to be a progressive should know that there's different types of family makeups. Different types. So we filed a Marsy's Law violation. Why? And some facts came out of that hearing that are absolutely 110% disturbing. On the morning of the plea of the defendant, something happened after midnight that night that is unbelievable to me in the way that she conducted her office. Y'all might recognize that Ms. Gonzalez started a campaign of calling Judge Lawton Stevens a bully and insinuating that he was a racist, in handling one of her ADAs who ultimately resigned from his courtroom. I've appeared before Judge Stevens countless times. Andrew, I know, has seen him. Kalki has certainly done this. And Bill, I mean, everybody would tell you this. Judge Stevens has done more for civil rights, for this community, and for victims of crimes, and to make sure that defendants that have mental health issues, and defendants that are veterans, and defendants that have alcohol and drug issues, to make sure that justice has prevailed to them. He is the longest serving Superior Court judge in the state of Georgia, folks. To attack this man's integrity is appalling. I have stood before Judge Stevens where he has ruled for me and ruled against me, but I always get a fair shake in front of him. So she tells the public, okay, that Judge Stevens treated this ADA so bad that he walked out of his courtroom, an African-American ADA, and resigned. But what we learned at that Marsy's Law hearing is that's not true. She put it on Facebook. She confronted Judge Stevens, who fortunately put it on the record about what she wanted to say to him, that she put out there and said, I confronted a bully today, that I did this. Well, the truth is, he didn't resign that day. The truth is, he stood on, he kept on. And he made plea recommendations inside that courtroom, one of which was Miss Wilson. He made plea recommendations after midnight, the day of the plea of this very serious crime, and 3 minutes later, then sent an email resigning. I want you to think about that. She told a lie to the public. I said this in the hearing. I was taught this a long time ago. When you tell a lie, you actually tell two lies. The lie you tell others, and the lie you tell yourself. She told everybody that this was so bad that he walked out, but the guy was making plea recommendations. And what did he recommend on this death case? Probation. Vehicular homicide to the second degree, not the felony, no prison time, nothing. He'd pay a fine to someone that had lost their husband. So I had the victim advocate that was handling the case who got on the stand. And Ms. Gonzalez was ordered through a subpoena to bring me all emails regarding this case, all information about this case, and they show up in court and they give me some, but they don't give me the emails from the guy that supposedly resigned and made the plea recommendations resign. That was helping me because I kept asking, who made the plea offer in this case? Who offered up probation? Who allowed this to happen? Her answer, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. How do you not know? How do you not know this? The reason she couldn't tell me that answer is because she would have to tell another lie. Because she had already lied to the public. She had already lied to Judge Stevens. The guy that made the plea was her office. He made the recommendation. So the victim advocate, I said, what did you do? When did you learn about this? She goes, well, seeing that I only got the information after midnight, I only had till that morning to call people. What information? Well, I got the recommendation from Mr. Hunter. I said, Mr. Hunter never worked. I knew he didn't work there. No, he made the. Where are those emails? Oh, I've got them. Let's take a break, Judge, so we can get that. Who did he send that email to? Ms. Gonzalez. So the victim advocate, I want you to think about this. Jim left a widow and a sister in Virginia. Victim advocate comes in, sees the plea recommendations at 8:30 in the morning. Court starts at 9:30. She makes a call to the sister in Virginia and says, we're pleading it this morning. We're pleading it. And the guy that killed your brother is going to get probation. No jail time and a fine. What did the sister do? I'm outraged. I don't want this. This is not what I want. Victims of crimes have rights to give their statements to the court. And I said, did you offer up the opportunity for this sister to come speak to the court? No. Why? Well, I knew she was in Virginia. She couldn't make it down here. Then they called the wife, who they fought for me at the Marsy's Law violation, it was not his wife. If she wasn't his wife, why did you call her? She teaches at Athens Technical College. She gets a call 30 minutes before so-called justice is supposed to take place for her husband's death. It goes to voicemail because she's teaching a class. Is that dignity and respect for a victim? No. A lot of you have loved ones next to you. If that loved one was killed by a drunk driver and you waited 600 days for justice, don't you think a little bit more of dignity and respect is worth more than a voicemail 30 minutes before? Now, I know y'all are probably shocked and appalled about what I've just told you, but let me tell you what happened that morning. The case is called, and Judge Stevens asked the question, has the victim been notified? The apprentice, not a licensed attorney at the point, says, I think so, Judge. Well, what do you mean by you think so? Well, the victim advocate's not in the room right now. The victim's advocate's not in the room right now because she's off talking to them right now. Ms. Gonzalez, yes, we have. Yes, we have. What we learn is that the victim advocate then comes into the courtroom and says that the sister is disappointed with it, but no one talks about the wife. No one. They then proceed ahead with the plea, and this is what I want to educational on. Mrs. Wilson was intimately involved in her husband's case. She on her own accord went and got the accident report, learned what happened. Jim was just an amazing bike rider, mountain climber, rock climber. This is not a 60-year-old man that was just sitting around and doing nothing, right? And the reason why Marsy's Law is very, very important for victims is victims get the opportunity to tell the judges the truth. Victims get the opportunities to tell the judge, hey, before you do this, let me tell you about something. And when that transcript is ultimately posted to the website, I beg you to not only read it, what she said that day, but to share it to everybody you can, because what a lasting memory that she attempted to give that day of an individual whose justice was absolutely stripped of both of them. But what Judge Stevens learned that day was that if she could have told him what really happened based on the police report and the accident report, I know Judge Stevens can't say this, he would not have accepted the plea. I'm going to tell you a little procedural thing, everybody. And Kalki knows this, and Andrew knows this, Bill knows this, is that when a plea is entered for a defendant in a criminal case, the prosecutor is supposed to give the basis of the plea and the factual basis for the plea. That's a very important thing for the judge to hear, right, Kalki? I mean, that's very, very important. That didn't happen in this case. You know who gave the factual basis? The defense attorney. And you know what that defense attorney said? He wasn't wearing any reflective clothing that night. What does the accident report say? He was wearing yellow, bright clothing. That there were no lights on the back of his bike. There were lights on the front and the back blinking at the time. He was hit so hard by this individual that on the bike, he was thrown out of his shoes. The driver was eating a Subway sandwich, and the defense attorney said there wasn't any evidence that could prove that he was drunk that evening, right? That this was a questionable case. And he also said that there wasn't any video of the accident. That's not true. There was video. She never saw it. She never got it. The DUI, he did the 3 sobriety tests and he failed all 3 of them. All 3 of them. He admits that he was eating a Subway sandwich while adjusting his radio, driving down the road when he hit him. That didn't get to Judge Stevens. Now hear this. folks. He was arrested for DUI, and when they took him to the station so that he could decline to take the test, the officer noted that the smell of alcohol was so strong in the back of the vehicle that it just emanated from all in the vehicle, and the driver of the vehicle passed out in the back of the police car. He then was taken to the hospital in order to obtain blood tests. He refused the blood test, but a question that we still have is this. He was treated at the hospital. He was treated. Deborah Gonzalez subpoenaed the hospital records to get them. She never got them. The hospital just didn't respond. Instead of taking that to the judge and saying, this hospital needs to turn over these records, they never got them. They never got his admissions. They never got whether or not he actually gave blood. They don't know. None of this was told to Judge Stevens. None of this. He was giving a statement of facts from the defense attorney. Ultimately, Judge Stevens allowed the plea to go forward based on the facts that he heard from the defense attorney. At the Marsy's Law hearing, Ms. Wilson talked about the facts that she knew, and Judge Stevens could have heard that if she was there that day. But they didn't get that chance. The defendant ultimately stand up in that hearing, and the judge asked him, do you have anything that you would like to say? Do you have anything you'd like to say at this moment? And to the defendant's credit, he said he wanted to speak to the family and the people that were left in the room. They weren't there. He spoke to no one of the deceased. But he said something that was very telling. He said, I've heard a quote, is that, and he says, this death will stay with me forever. But if you kill someone, or if you hurt someone, and you don't say their name out loud, you kill them twice. And I will always remember his name, and I will always say it out loud. He said this in this plea hearing. Okay? Throughout the 6 hours of the Marsy's Law hearing, Deborah Gonzalez and Robert Wilson never said the victim's name once. Not once. I will tell you as I sit here today, the pain and the suffering that Mrs. Wilson went through this whole process is indescribable. Words does not give it justice to what happened to her. But Mrs. Gonzalez killed her husband twice. Judge Stevens said it was a tragedy. They killed him when they failed to prosecute him. The defendant, they killed him. His justice that was deserved for his family. And they killed him again. That instead of admitting to the Marsy's Law violation, they fought the widow to make her prove in court, which we did. We proved in court that she was the wife. Judge Stevens found that. Can you imagine the grieving process, folks, of what this woman has been through because of Miss Deborah Gonzalez? So, as I finish, Mike said something to me before we started. You got to do something. Y'all put the screen up with Andrew about 88% of people not going to vote. You got to do something that resonates with people, right? You got to be something that talks with folks. When you go back out in the public and you talk about Deborah Gonzalez, this is a fight for the soul of our community. When Kalki beats her, he has a heavy, heavy load to take on. He's going to have to meet with victims that she hasn't met with. He's going to have to do a lot, and we've got to get him there. Because if we don't, folks, You want to resonate? You look your neighbor in the eye. You look at the person that doesn't know who to vote for DA, and you tell them, if your spouse was killed, who you vowed before God for better or worse, till death do us part. If your spouse is killed in a major accident, be prepared to defend yourself that was truly your spouse, because that's what Ms. Gonzalez does to victims. Tell them that. Tell them that when your spouse is killed, Ms. Gonzalez may call you the morning of the plea and leave you a voicemail telling her, hey, that guy that killed your spouse, we're going to give him probation. Tell him that. Because that's what's happening. Tell them that when their little kid that they have is ever raped or sex crime is committed against them, there's a good chance that case will be dismissed, and you as a parent are never told about it. That happened. That happened. I want us to stop thinking about this race as a Republican, as a Democrat. This is about real lives. This is about real victims. This is about real people getting hurt, both when the crime occurs against them and when Deborah Gonzalez gets a hold of it and prosecute it. I encourage each of you to share what I'm telling you. Please do. Please do. And then make sure that when a slideshow comes up after Deborah Gonzalez's election, that 88% of people not vote is not out there. Get everyone to vote. Everybody that you can, and tell them the story. This must be stopped. Her self-preservation must come to an end. I thank y'all for listening, and I encourage each of you to visit the website as we continue to update you. And she's right about one thing, and I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this right now. She wants to talk about attrition. I'm proud to represent victims. In their darkest, and the moment they need somebody, and I will continue to do so until the last breath in my body. Thank y'all very much.